Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than normal. As you guys probably know, I am a big fan of social media, and as a result, I spend a lot of time on TikTok and YouTube watching a lot of different types of videos, but many of which are about the car market and are about people who've purchased cars. There are a ton of people out there who have publicly talked about their absolutely horrendous car deals where they are spending an astronomical amount of money per month on their used and new vehicles. And today, we're going to be going through some of these videos. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts, and we're just going to be looking at how crazy these deals actually are. So let's get started.
I'm 58 years old, never financed anything in my life. I've got a pretty good job here, and the car that I had 8 months ago started breaking down. I mean, every week was another $1,000, getting to the point my dependability at work was in question. So I ended up going to a dealership and getting into the most horrible deal. I had no idea. What I understood is that I was buying a $15,000 car at 24% interest for $19,800.
So right off the bat, there are a handful of red flags with this statement. First and foremost being that he said, I understood the car was priced at $15,000. And this is the first major red flag about this deal. That gives me the idea that there definitely wasn't 100% clarity whenever he was going through and purchasing this car, and that is a huge mistake. Whenever you buy a car, you need to make sure that you understand every single detail of the deal, and if that means that you have to call up a friend, call up your parents, if you have to watch a YouTube video or even tell the salesman to walk it through you line by line, then that is exactly what you should do, because walking away from the car deal with an understanding of what it should be, but maybe not 100% clarity, well, then that just isn't acceptable, and you shouldn't do the deal under those circumstances. Not to mention the fact that this buyer had a 24% interest rate. I personally think that 24% interest rate should be illegal. It is predatory, and the fact that this person was approved for that and signed on for a loan for that is just, it's crazy. It's almost unfathomable.
Well, that's not the case. It turns out I called the finance company about a couple, 3 days after taking possession of the car, and it said, no, Mr. Reynolds, I said, Frank, you owe $30,000, not $19,000. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't agree to this. Well, here's where we're at. So for 7 months, I've been making payments every month, never been late. The total hasn't come down at all. The warranty expired.
People like Dave Ramsey love to talk about how having zero debt is the best route to go down. And while I don't necessarily think that he's wrong, I think that it is sort of an out-of-touch way of looking at finance in today's day and age. Because the reality is having debt and knowing how to navigate debt is an incredibly important life tool. And I think that this goes to show some of the consequences that can come with never, ever borrowing money or never exploring the idea of borrowing money. Earlier in this TikTok, this gentleman said that he never has borrowed money, he doesn't take out loans, he hasn't purchased and financed a car before, and ultimately, I think that this is part of those consequences. If you don't know how to navigate loans, if you don't understand interest rates, you're putting yourself in a position to be taken advantage of if there ever is a time where you do have to take out a loan. Now, I'm not saying that you have to borrow money in order to learn about money, but I do think that this idea that debt is inherently bad and you should never borrow money under any circumstances, I think that this mindset then fosters this scenario where if you need to take out debt, you just don't know how to navigate it, and thus you're taken advantage of, and then you take out these absolutely horrendous loans. Because borrowing money for the sake of purchasing a car isn't necessarily bad in and of itself, but borrowing money at a 24% interest rate for a car that you thought was going to cost $15,000, but in reality it costs $30,000, I mean, that is a potentially life-changing scenario that this person just got themselves into.
Now, my father has offered to loan me $20,000 for the buyout price of $19,800 or whatever it is, and he's probably going to charge me 6% simple interest. Well, that would mean that I'm going to end up paying $27,000. Oh, when I blue booked the car, it came up to $10,000, not the $15,000 that they claim.
This just keeps getting worse and worse. So not only is this person paying $30,000 for a car that they thought was $15,000 at a 24% interest rate, but in reality, this car isn't even worth the $15,000 that he thought it was, and it's actually worth $10,000. And this is a scenario that is so incredibly common, and it's one of the reasons why I make the videos that I make, and it's also a reason why I just don't like dealerships, because I think that dealerships far too often say whatever they have to say in order to make a sale, and that's misleading the buyer. It's telling that the buyer that their car is worth more than it's actually worth, and it puts people in these positions where they think they're buying one thing, and in reality they're buying a completely different thing that is significantly worse.
Now, what I'm thinking is offering them $13,000. Tell them to apply the $7,000 I've already spent and see if they'll take it. If not, give them the car back.
I don't know if any of it works like that, Frank.
This is a really sad, but I think far too common example of how finance companies and dealerships take advantage of uneducated buyers. And it again emphasizes the importance of knowing how to navigate a dealership, a salesperson, and a finance institution. And it's one of the reasons why I make the videos that I make, because I think that this scenario is just extremely common and it really does break my heart. This person obviously has no idea how the car buying process works, because he thinks that he can just offer the finance company 13 grand, say, hey, you keep my 7 that I already spent, and then we just call it even, let me walk away with the vehicle. But as the host said, it doesn't really work that way. And whenever you're in these situations, your options are incredibly limited, which is why buying the car at the wrong price is an incredibly dangerous thing. In this case, you could possibly refinance, you could just keep the car and eat the cost, or alternatively, you could potentially sell the car, but there is no way you're going to sell that car for how much you owe, in which point you're probably going to have to get a personal loan. And of course, in this scenario, he's making his payments, but he's not paying down his interest, and that's because of his absurd 24% interest rate.
How much is your car payment?
Just 800.
I hate these videos. These are on TikTok. They went viral, and they've kind of been going viral on and off all year. And the idea is to go up to people at a dealership, specifically people that work at dealerships, and ask them how much their car payment is. And I am absolutely convinced that this is car dealership personnel, so salespeople, who are using this tactic as a way to normalize how much car payments actually are.
How much is your car payment?
Just 800.
Like, just 800, so casual. 800 is an absurd car payment. That's above normal for a new car, and that is an incredibly high price to pay. It's way more expensive than the average American can actually afford. And so to just shrug your shoulders and say, just 800, it's just annoying. It's very frustrating.
How much is your car payment?
1,800, just like my cousin.
How much is your car payment?
500.
How much is your car payment?
0.
How much is your car payment?
I paid it in full in cash, right there and then.
Having the $0 payment is definitely the flex in this scenario. That $800 payment, I mean, what type of car does this person have? Either they got a car that was incredibly expensive, or they have an incredibly poor interest rate. I'm not sure what it is, but $800 on a car, that is a mortgage, not a car payment.
What's your car payment?
$958 a month.
How much is your car payment?
$1,670.
$1,670. That is crazy.
How much is your car payment?
$1,720.
Now, I get it. Some cars are incredibly expensive, especially whenever you get into the high luxury or exotic market, in which case your car payment probably will be in that $1,500 to $2,500 mark, depending on the car. But I can't help but look at these dealership workers and wonder, how much are they making on a monthly basis in order to justify or afford a $1,700 car payment? And I can't help but think that they probably can't afford it, but maybe I'm wrong.
So Mom needed a car to get from A to B, right?
Yeah.
Just to get to like a location from her place.
Yeah.
So that she could work, make money, and then, you know, take care of herself, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Why did it have to be a $20,000 car?
Oh, that's the cheapest they had on the lot.
Okay, f off. Go to a different lot. Car guy?
Now, this is Caleb Hammer. I'm a big fan of his YouTube channel. It's actually probably the only YouTube channel currently that I'm binge watching consistently. And he does these financial audits where you see these crazy car payments all the time. And this was one of the more memorable ones that he's had this year. To say that you chose a car specifically because that car was the cheapest one available on the lot, that is a huge mistake. And I truthfully think that this is part of the problem of the culture that we have around buying a car. It's this idea that you just need to go to the lot, you need to find a car that you like, and then your finances will work around that. But in reality, a car purchase is a massive purchase. It's for most people the second largest purchase that they'll ever make in their life. And to just stroll to a dealership not really knowing what you want to pay, what you can expect, it is a massive mistake. You need to do your research, figure out exactly what car you want to pay, and you need to find a dealership that can accommodate that rather than the other way around.
Well, I was on a tight schedule with work.
Okay. So was that tight schedule with work worth $20,000 with $2,000 down with 13% interest rate?
That is a huge mistake that, again, I see people make all the time. If you are going to go buy a car, make sure that you have time to buy a car that day. Never, ever, under any circumstances, rush the deal because you want to get out of there or you have somewhere to be or you need to go to work. If you are going to buy a car, make sure that you're prepared to spend as much time as you need to and looking for that car, going into finance and negotiating the deal to ensure that you get the best deal as possible. Because like I've said on my channel hundreds of times, getting a bad deal on a car can truly be life-changing in the worst ways possible, and you don't want to rush that simply because you had to go to work.
A car payment is a way to ensure that you stay broke.
I just wanted to include that because I thought it was funny. This is just such a short snippet, but it is exactly what Dave Ramsey stands for. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Dave Ramsey. I think that his lessons and his teachings work well for some people, but I think that they are pretty out of touch with current realities. And I also think that they don't work well with young people. The fact is, I don't think having a car payment is inherently bad, but I think having a car payment that you can't afford or at an extremely high interest rate, it is bad. I've said a lot on my channel that my husband has a $1,300 per month car payment. That is an absurdly high car payment, and on the surface, it's sort of embarrassing. But at the end of the day, we could afford that type of car payment, and it's at a 3.9% interest rate, which means that that car payment makes a lot of sense. Because if we were to invest that money, we can actually get a higher return than we would have if we paid for that car in cash. Car payments aren't bad. If you can get a car for a below market value deal, one that you can afford comfortably and at a solid rate, a car payment can be a decent thing. But where people get into trouble is whenever they spread themselves too thin with the car payment, they buy a car brand new or one that's overinflated in price, and they have an incredibly bad interest rate on top of all of that.
$645 a month.
I should only be paying $300 for that type of car, like $300 a month. What if I get it refinanced? I haven't asked that yet.
What is the interest rate on this thing?
I have no idea.
This audit was frustrating, but it also just sort of made me sad because I think that this is a sad reality of so many people out there, and it really is a shame that we don't teach personal finance, debt, interest rates, and things like how to buy a car in school, because it puts young people in situations exactly like this young woman who purchases a car and has a 24% interest rate on it. Now, you guys saw from the caption on the video that it was 24%, but whenever she was asked about it, she didn't even know what her interest rate was. And whenever you purchase anything, whenever you finance anything, you should know the exact down payment, the exact term, what the interest rate is, as well as when you're going to be free and clear from that loan as well. To not know this is irresponsible, and I do understand that a lot of people just don't know what they don't know, but it is incredibly important to understand the details of any debt that you're getting yourself into.
Oh, no, that's not possible.
The interest rate.
What do you think a bad interest rate on a car loan is?
I don't know anything about cars.
What do you think?
10?
Yeah, that's a bad interest rate. How about 23.53% interest on a car debt? My life.
This is, again, more sad than it is funny because it is just so ridiculous and it is so common, especially nowadays. Like with subprime borrowers, so people that have really poor credit, they are the ones that are paying these 24 to 26% interest rates in today's current car market. And it just really sucks because the chances are that somebody that does have a very, very poor credit score is also probably somebody that hasn't been taught personal finance and interest rates and how all of this works. So it sort of is this vicious cycle where they have a poor credit score because they don't know how to use credit. And then whenever they need to buy something like a car, which in many cities in the United States is required or really needed in order to function around society properly, whenever you need to do that, you can't because you don't know how to use personal finance. Then you have this 24% interest rate that you can't pay. And it just really is this lifelong, endless cycle. And it makes me really sad. A 24% interest rate under no circumstances makes sense. It is much better to either just walk, take the bus, ride a bike, and save until you can buy that car in cash, because this type of interest rate is a hole that you will never, ever be able to get out of. But there you guys have it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.